let's talk about the YCS.
I'm the shit now. Look at me. I'm a boss like my nigga Rose.
Okay, so in case you all were unfamiliar, this last weekend was a YCS, and the YCS. The story going into the YCS was that Aelin, the set that had released the day of the YCS, was going to cause an irreparable amount of damage to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Metagame. And the biggest change that was going to occur was that there was going to be one deck in the room worth playing, Malice. Why? Well, there are a couple of cards in this set, Echoed Talker, or whatever it's called in America, and Malice Marchhare, are kind of just what the doctor ordered for the deck. There's also a couple Adagnister monsters that give you the ability to extend in a deck that otherwise had to rely on like the fucking Bestials in order to beat like Imperm your Dormouse. And I gotta tell you, I was one of those people. I was like, yep, this is going to be the best deck. It now has the capacity to play through a lot of stuff. People were comparing like the individual Adagnister monsters to like the way Snake Eyes can like slow roll a bonfire to represent a piece of negation if their normal summon gets hit with an imperm. I'm like, it's the exact same situation. Single target negation is just going to be a difference of checking if you have an extender in your hand, and you almost always will in this deck. You can pass really early because of Marchhare, which enables you to like combo on your opponent's turn and beat a bunch of the Charmies. I'm like, no big deal. It's going to be the best deck. Anyway, it wasn't in finals. So what threw a wrench into an unparalleled decade of Malice dominance? Two things. Firstly, I believe there are Yu-Gi-Oh! Gods. I believe there are, I'm not talking about Ra, I'm not talking about Slifer. I believe there are beings that control what decks top and what don't, and that those beings respond to the whims of the community as well as your own preparation. And the Yu-Gi-Oh! Gods decided it would be funny if Malice didn't win a YCS after not winning the last 12 YCSs. Second, Mitsurugi. So I think we all understood that the new wave of Mitsurugi stuff was really good, and that it would be part of a tiered meta deck, probably Ryziel, but also maybe just itself. Some people have been seeing success with fucking Ogdoadic as well. So we have, in a way that the OCG never did, a comparable deck in Mitsurugi Ryziel that is also crazy strong. And as a result, despite the fact that I think everyone was forecasting maybe a tier 0 or tier 0.5, if you're one of those people that deals with that loaded ass term format, there still are like 2 or 3 things you could play that can all do really well against each other. Shun was playing a fucking deck from last format. He was like, whatever, I'll just bring Fiendsmith Ryziel again. What's more, I think this was a very first weekend kind of event. A lot of decisions being made, both in the main decks and the side decks, that make a lot of sense if you haven't had a lot of testing with the format. Like decisions that make a lot of sense in a vacuum, if that makes sense. Like really wide, untuned, I am casting as big a net as possible style decision making that will slowly get honed. Now, I do want to say, despite the fact that it's really funny that Malice didn't win finals, I do still believe that it is the best deck. I think that the fact that people thought it was going to be the best deck demanded that they sort of overboard for it. They did overboard for it, and it still ended up most represented deck after top cut, most represented deck in top 16, most represented deck in top 8. So, I don't know. But I think it is not that much better of a deck than the comparable strategies of Mitsurugi et al. And then did not convert. A deck converting from 32 to 16 to 8 is impressive. A deck going 3-1 against the best players in the world is still a very impressive finish, chat. You understand that, right? Surely you do. How did you feel about Pure Mitsu making it to top 4? Pure Mitsu is a really, really, really good deck. It's a really strong deck. a good finish, but expectations are very high. That's actually the truth. That's actually the truth. But of course, that wasn't the only kind of drama that happened over this weekend. There was also the spreadsheet. So, oh no! No! So for the past week, a group of individuals, the like Hack, Jib, Extended Universe, has been selling a spreadsheet of Malice combos for some amount of money. I think it's like $35 or $200 if you buy the spreadsheet and the associated coaching classroom. I guess I'm in the minority on this. I think that's fine. I think Malice is a really incoherent mess of a deck, and it is helpful to have spreadsheets as like a starting place. Is like, okay, here's what you're going to have to memorize as a prerequisite before you actually do any learning. I think the coaching, that's a lot of money for sure. But like, if you have that amount of money, like I have purchased coaching at that price point and I've been very happy with it. It can be really helpful if you're looking to improve seriously. Where people had a little bit of backlash was this tweet, which no longer exists. Pack posted, here's our Malice list from the event, and it did not have the Malice GWC trap in main. He wrote, if you are playing GWC, you're behind. If you're playing Allied Code, you are lost. But a significant amount of the combos in that spreadsheet included Allied Code, and all of them included GWC. So what's going on? A lot of people are like, they deliberately misled you and gave you bad combos so that you would lose to them if you played them in Swiss, which is a very funny assertion. I 100% believe it based on no evidence. But secondly, so someone made a post that was like, I feel kind of misled. I purchased this with the understanding this was the most updated series of combos as preparatory work for the YCS. And Pack responded and was like, listen, yes, these are combos that we built with the intention of taking to the YCS, but like any combo, as you practice, you iterate upon them, right? And so like these are necessary for a fundamental understanding of the deck, but they aren't necessarily the combos that we would be representing in paper, because our understanding of what we were going to do and in what order changes as late as the night before the event, right? So he says, we got the GWC idea quite literally like the night before lists were due, okay? And then people were like, oh, okay, that's not too big of a deal then. You know, I don't think I can really be too mad about that. But then Ryan Yu got online. And he was like, okay, shouts out to everyone who contributed to the deck, including Pack and Jib, who said last minute, don't main GWC. So then people started saying, oh, so you had time to tell Ryan, but not the people who paid you money. I guess I guess that I am gonna have, again, the unpopular opinion here. My answer to that would be yes. Yeah, right? You come up with a crazy iteration on the combo the night before the event, and you tell your friend, but you don't put it on the combo sheet. Yeah. I think that's fine. I think what's happening is, and I'm not saying this is the fault of the people who are purchasing it. I do think it is, at least in part, a fault with how the spreadsheets are marketed. But I think a lot of people believe purchasing the spreadsheet entitles them to up to the minute understandings about how people are changing their play relative to everybody else. And an assurance that if they follow the combos on the spreadsheet to the T, they will top the YCS. Like if they purchase the spreadsheet and they memorize the combos, they are entitled to topping the YCS. How much were the spreadsheets? $35. They're right. They studied. It's like a test, right? Yeah, for sure. I think the way the spreadsheet is being sold, people are inferring that it is the most complete, most up-to-date, and represents a consensus understanding among the people who are making the spreadsheet that this is the best way to play the deck. And I think that that inference is supported by a lot of the stuff that the people say. So I do think it's like maybe a little more truth in advertising, but also I think there needs to be an understanding from the community that you can buy a spreadsheet, you can get coaching from some people, and you can still lose. They can still figure something out, you know, maybe the night before that doesn't make it onto the spreadsheet. It is... It is a strange era of Yu-Gi-Oh! We are in. Because we are getting to a position... I think it was the fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! Conspiracy guy who said this. But we're getting to a position where if you are not part of the like pro player clique, it is really, really hard to top an event. Because the people who live and breathe and work on competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Are like steel sharpening steel type individuals. Like they are constantly iterating on the top strategies, and the baseline level of understanding required to play a Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck at a high level is so far beyond what you could possibly imagine it to be. It has gotten so complex that people feel like even if given 100,000 years, they won't be able to necessarily independently come up with that process. And the only group of people consistently engaging with other high-level people is like the group of 20 or 30 pro players that are like all a part of this. Because we are in that really weird time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Trying to make money off of coaching individuals is hard. Because what are you going to do? You're going to be like, yeah, in 2 weeks, I kind of have to get you up to speed on what is essentially a consensus we've been building for like 4 years. So I get both the frustration of people who feel like not only is there no in for like a normal person to get capital G good at Yu-Gi-Oh!, you also aren't allowed like the keys to the kingdom that are being sold to you by the people who are privy to the discussions where like real development is happening. And I get the frustration on the behalf of the people who are selling the guides from people who think they are just going to hand them a top. It's a fraught situation that I think is quite literally being made so much worse by the way social media works. Encourages both call-out posts from the part of individuals who think they were wronged and totally overinflating the value of the spreadsheet on the part of the people who are trying to sell it. Like SEO manipulation. Siberian says, so precisely if I buy a spreadsheet, what am I buying exactly? What you said a while back is a spreadsheet doesn't give you any particular proficiency with the deck. It's what you got to know to play at a base level. I'd go a step beyond and say they're a bad way to learn. And suddenly that makes the case that the spreadsheet should be free and the coaching should be paywalled. The coaching is massively paywalled. That's what the 200 is that people are talking about. I think the clique of pro players are all jerk-offs and scumlords, and that the community gives them a pass because they are good at the game. The community definitely does give a bunch of assholes a pass because they are good at the game. But that is every competitive community. They also give a bunch of content creators passes to be assholes. They give a bunch of community figureheads passes to be assholes. That's any competitive community ever. Would you equate this to deck primers and sideboarding guides that are sold and paywalled in Magic similarly? Yes. I would. I would equate it almost exactly to that, and I think that the guide that is being sold is much, much more work than almost every sideboard guide on the Magic market. Hard leg, that's so true. I don't know. Funny situation all around. I think that you are, but I love that he deleted the tweet. I was like, he was getting so much hate on the tweet. He was like, nah, I can't keep this up. The totally frustrating part about this is that there are just so, like, people are like, oh, well, the spreadsheet is bunk or whatever. You understand how few alternatives there are to this? I would wager there are probably under 1,000 people in the US who are willing to lab out and think about Yu-Gi-Oh! To this degree. Like, everyone has gotten really good at being like an all right Yu-Gi-Oh player. But the really, really good Yu-Gi-Oh players have gotten so much better in the last couple of years. It would require like 100 mid-core players to band together. But there's just not that many of them. So, oh, thank you. See how this turned out. It's delicious. All right, one more thing we have to talk about with respect to Yu-Gi-Oh, and that's the prize support. So, Yu-Gi-Oh changed their... I don't want this. Yu-Gi-Oh changed their prize support finally. They revealed some truly incredible changes. Now, if you make day 2, you get a card with a stamp on it. If you make top 32, you get a card with a different stamp on it. Top 16, that stamp, it's different. Top 8, top 4, top 2, the stamps. They also have like a prize pack that you can open that's only available to people who do well. So this is cool. I like this a lot. I will be honest, this has to be the first step in restructuring prize support. Because while it is nice, it also is not very much. I think a lot of people are like, oh, these cards with the stamp on them are going to sell for thousands. They will not. They're not gonna. The first couple might, but we'll see. They said more to announce after the WCQ. I have some stuff on my wish list. It's a step in the right direction. I hope they keep stepping. Careful if you say that on Twitter, because thousands of Konami dick riders will tell you to shut up and be happy. There's so many people who are like, wow, this is great. I hope they keep improving. They're like, keep improving? What more do you want? They bought a rubber stamp. Fuck. You're never going to be happy, are you?